What's up, y'all? Keith here. I just wanted to take a quick minute to address the marching that's going on, the riots that's going on, and the why. I'm not sure that a lot of people know why it is such a big deal. Yes, there are men, black men, that have been getting killed. The way that it's been done is if they've been hunted down or if they're animals. It's ridiculous. But what I want to do is I want to point you to history. When I was in school, history for me was American history, if you will. There was not much about black history. They talked a little bit about slavery and how they were freed and, you know, the world was great again, right? And then at the end of the year, at the end of the school year, well, we talk a little bit about the civil rights movement, and you see a picture of Martin Luther King, and it's June, and then we check out. Nobody's paying attention to that. There's a whole lot that happened between the time that the slaves arrived, the time the slaves were freed, and the time between the slaves being freed and the civil rights movement ending. And then there's a whole nother layer between the civil rights movement ending to now. I don't think many people understand the layers in there and what happened, the different things that happened in those time frames. Mainly being the part of since the slaves have been free to now. And what I want to offer to you all is a challenge. I want to challenge you this week to go out to Netflix. No, I don't own Netflix stock or anything like that. But there is a documentary called 13th. And it's a documentary that will take you back to slavery and will walk you through really to not today, but these days and the things that are going on and the reasons that we're seeing these marches. I think it's important for you to watch. If you're still watching this video, it's important for you to watch the documentary 13th because it will give you, again, a broad stroke of the why. And I'm sure you're turning on the TV and it's like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? You know, I'm sure that you hate seeing another human being die. But check out this documentary. There's a lot of similarities in the why then and the why now. And if you're a reader, if you'd rather read something rather than watch a documentary, there's a book out there called The New Jim Crow. And for those of you that don't know what Jim Crow is, we talked a little bit about that in school too. A little. Jim Crow is basically a set of laws that were created after the slaves were freed. Basically, in short, to keep them in place. So, the challenge. Watch 13. I honestly would love to hear feedback from you about this documentary and how you watched it or the book that you read. Feeding your mind right now with the knowledge that's necessary to really engage in the way that you might want to. There's a lot of you out there that are probably like, I really wish I could talk to a black person about this black issue. I'll be that person. Open up your mind. Watch 13. Read The New Jim Crow. Understand the plight. I know you've probably heard before, you know, the rules are different for me and you, but you probably don't understand what that means. And if you don't, again, if you're still watching this video, watch 13. The sooner, the better. My thoughts on you watching 13 is that you'll want to do something with the information. Now, you watch the 13th or you read The New Jim Crow, you're going to be faced with some decisions because it's going to show you an element of this country that you have probably never thought of, you probably never thought was there, and if somebody told you, you wouldn't believe it. Once you look at it and you use a little of your noggin there to put some pieces together, because I promise you, black people are not marching because they don't have anything else better to do. The laws that have been put in place to help people of color have been put in place for a reason. People think that black people are taking jobs from them even though they're just as qualified. Well, there's a whole lot that you'll see in 13th that was taken from black people that really put us behind. What I'd like to see is for America to understand what the Colin Kaepernick knee was all about. Watch 13th. That is what Colin Kaepernick's knee was all about. It was not about disrespecting the military. That was a complete diversion. It was not about the military. It's a beautiful country, but there's a lot of ugliness that's happened underneath the surface. Again, the challenge. Watch the 13th or start reading the new Jim Crow. It's available on Amazon. Go to Barnes & Noble. You can do the audiobook, whatever. Just get some knowledge. Gain some knowledge. Because you want to help. You're like, oh, what can we do to help? What can we do to help? I want to learn. I want to know more. I want to do more. Start there. Start by educating yourself on Black history. And you don't have to go all the way back, through the slave days and all that type of stuff. Although you probably should. But if you start with just 13th, and they touch on slavery, and they show you the picture of slavery and how slavery, or the release of the slaves looked then, and how the life of black people looks now, and you can see these images of truth. And with your knowledge, you'll be able to have intelligible conversations with black people and say, hey, I watched this show, or I watched this documentary, and it said this, this, and this. What do you think about that? And how can I help from that standpoint? Help from an educated mind. Knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Participate in making or creating change. Remember, this is all about the laws that have been put into place. So in November, by November, we all need to be talking about how we can help an entire race move forward. I know Barack Obama was voted as president, and things look so much better than they did. Back in the 60s and 70s, we've come so far. But if you watch the TV like I did this weekend, you see that so far is not necessarily that far at all. It's not necessarily you, it's the laws. And if you vote a certain way, certain laws will be upheld or certain laws will be removed. And this election, very important for black people. This election, very important for black people. Why? Because their chances are here during the next election or the next presidential term, they're going to be appointing some judges to the Supreme Court. And depending on what side of the fence they are, it could get worse or better for black people. A question that I have for you is, how do you value life? Life that has flesh that is a little different from yours, a little darker than yours. And before you answer that question, I want you to answer this question. When you're in a dark alley, or if you ever are in a dark alley, or just imagine yourself in a dark alley and you run across a person that looks like me, that maybe is not smiling, what's your first thought? Ladies, do you grab your purse? Fellas, does that ego start coming in? Like, what's your thought? And then what if somebody looks like you, just walking along, minding his business with the same skin complexion as you? Ladies, are you still clutching your purse? Fellas, are you still ready to fight? It's just something to think about. Something that we're going to dive into on my channel is prejudicial awareness. And I believe we've all got some sort of prejudices. Now, this is not for racists. That's a whole different, if you think you're better than everybody because of your color, that's a whole separate thing. But if you're just a little uncomfortable because you're lacking in knowledge about another race or someone that doesn't look like you or operate like you, we need to talk about it. Because at the end of the day, we need to be able to appreciate it. Because the same creator that created you created me. And how do you think God would feel knowing you feel a certain way about me because of my skin color, even though the protons, neutrons, and electrons that he created me with are the same protons, neutrons, and electrons that he created you with? 13th. Check it out. The new Tim Crow. Check it out. I'll put links down so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let's have conversation. I hope y'all have a good week. Love you guys.